Well then, hello ladies and gentlemen, this will be the new Hunter persona that has just been released in test server. We're gonna go through them one by one, of course, but also at the same time, as usual, we do the singles and then the triple points as we move on. So the first one will be Overwhelm. For Overwhelm, as you can see here, right, we're gonna test it out with Joseph first. So from the side of Joseph, right, with Overwhelm, what this does is increases your attack recovery speed when you knock down 2 or more survivors, and you only need to knock them down once, by the way. So here, as you can see, I knocked down 1 survivor. Now I'm going to teleport towards another survivor. I'm going to hit TME here, and that's 2 survivors that has been knocked down. We're just going to see it from our top right here. So Overwhelm increases your attack recovery speed by 5%, 10%, and then 15% for each different survivor you knock down. Now, of course, this will not be resetted regardless of what happens. I'm just going to turn on AI control here so they can use up self-heal. But if we just go towards the other survivors for now, this is kind of just a way of showing you that even if the survivors use up self-heal, it doesn't really matter. Overwhelm will still stack regardless of what happens. But of course, as you can see here, you kind of have to do the mental math yourself by seeing on the top right. 2 by 5 is 10, and then we just find the last one. Let me see, teleport to the last TME. There we go. So you can only have 3 stacks at max, which is 15% attack recovery speed as well. What we're going to do here is I'm going to pick this TME and then drop this TME down. But as you can see, there's a TME and the perfumer that has just gotten up as well, and you still have your triple stacks of Overwhelm. So this works really well if you want to double down, you know, a rescuer, or if you want to, let's say, potentially speaking, double down harassers when they come in. So Overwhelm, honestly speaking, is really good for like the likes of Joker, the likes of maybe Sculptor, Bonbon, etc, etc. But it's a very good trait. And as you can see here, right, from Joseph's side, we have Inertia, which is 10% attack recovery speed, and then adding an extra triple stack of, you know, Overwhelm, which is 15%, you get 25% attack recovery speed. That is basically a Berserker, a max Berserker. So it is pretty scary, isn't it? Okay, so the next buffed Hunter persona is actually no survivors. So basically, no survivors before, it was an attack recovery speed of 8%, but now after the buff, the attack recovery speed now is 10%. So basically, when there are survivors nearby, when there's a down survivor and there are survivors nearby, your attack recovery speed is increased by 10% instead of 8% now. Then our next single stack persona trait will be Obsession. So after ending a pursuit, if there is no moving survivors within 60 meters in front of you, your movement speed will be increased by 6% for 15 seconds. So if we just leave the perfumer there, as you can see, this comes into effect right now. So this is basically really good if you are a really big target change type of hunter. I would say this probably works really well with the likes of Wu-chan, with the likes of Opera Singer as well, but more or less, this kind of just does activate immediately once you change targets. However, there's also one additional thing as well that I do have to mention for everyone. If we just locate our nearby survivor, which is the TME right now, the TLDR of this is if you actually knock a survivor down too, this will actually activate. So as we can see here, Obsession does activate, but if you pick up a survivor from Balloon, it will deactivate. Righty, next will be Control Freak. So Control Freak got a mini buff in which when you drop down from, you know, a high place or just, you know, a drop down area in general, instead of the cooldown being 16 seconds, excuse me, it will now be 10-second cooldown for your basically movement speed boost of a 10%. This is kind of one of the only changes for this one. They've just reduced the cooldown from 16. Next Hunter persona will be Famine. So for Famine, during the first 60 seconds of the game, if there are no survivors within 80 meters of the Hunter, all survivor will now have a 6% decoding debuff, which simply just means that your early game decoding is going to be slower now if you do play the distance pulling meta, in which you want to try, you know, getting accelerated decoding buff on. So from this point of view, as long as it's within 60 seconds of the game, and if the Hunter isn't chasing after anyone, you basically will receive this full 6% decoding debuff, right? And as you can see, once the 60 second has passed, the debuff will be fully, it'll just get rid of by itself, honestly. Okay, the next one will be addiction. So for addiction got a small optimization, but it's mainly a buff. But what is the buff part of this? Well, the optimization part of this. So before, addiction had 15, 20, 25% of increased recovery rate when stunned when there's 2/3/4 survivors nearby, but now it is 10, 25, and 40% instead. So this simply just punishes survivors when survivors kind of over harass, and we only want one harasser instead of two. Right, so that's like the small optimization there. And of course, for the second part as well, they removed the recovery rate or the slow debuffs, like, you know, reducing the slow debuffs on addiction as well. So I'd say that's a nerf from the side of addiction. But now, if you stun the hunter while addiction is activated, you get 10 to 20% slowdown or movement speed debuff depending on the distance. So as you can see here, we're going to stun Bloody Queen, and you see addiction here has been procced from the survivor side as inflicting a slowing effect. And now as you can see, she runs normally now as the female dancer. So from the side of addiction, it's more or less a buff with some optimizations, some clearance of certain, you know, parts of the persona, but more or less it's a buff. Our next Hunter persona is going to be Claustrophobia. Claustrophobia just recently got buffed, as you can see on the screen here. Now they've added the fact that if there are 3 active survivors on the field, the execute opening speed will be reduced by 15%. So if we just pop open all the cipher machine here, and let's just see how slow it actually is. So with cipher machine has been popped, we're gonna open, and as you can see here, there's Claustrophobia here, in which it tells you your opening speed is decreased by 15%. Since there's only 3 active survivors here, as you can see, it's not as bad as the 70% one, but it is still pretty slow. I would say this is probably pretty similar to the likes of, you know, Acrobat, but maybe just a little bit faster than Acrobat. But this does make sense if you pop open a cipher machine with 3-man endgame right after the hunter chairs the survivor, and there's no way in hell that the hunter can chase up towards the survivor to get them down on time and to chair them, so it's a guaranteed 3-man escape. So it's overall not bad of a persona trait now that it has actually been buffed, because pre-buff, no one actually used it, right? Since when you down someone, oh well, the debuff kind of just goes. So this is honestly speaking not a bad buff from the side of Claustrophobia. Okay, so this is pretty interesting for me as well, but as I get my my priestess to drop down the pallets here, let's look at the newest addition, Vigilance. So for Vigilance, when the first 3 cipher machines are activated, each activation increases your movement speed by 6% for 10 seconds, and pallet destroying speed by 15%. So the pallet destroying speed can be stacked, by the way, and the effect is permanently lost when a survivor is on a rocket chair. So let's just say I decode a cipher machine. You can see here, right, Vigilance is activated and my movement speed is now increased by 10%. Let's keep doing this. So I'm just gonna decode like 3 cipher machines now, and as you can see, this is stacked up. So now you have movement speed of 18%, and then your pallet destroying speed is 45%. What I would probably say is, more or less from this point of view, this can be stacked up as much as you want, and it will be kind of permanently lost when a survivor is placed on a rocket chair. That simply just means that when a survivor goes on a rocket chair, this persona trait kind of just disappears in general. As you can see there as well, right? Like there was no activation of Vigilance at all, but it's only it's a bit weird. It's a bit weird how they phrase this, because it says it's only the first 3 cipher machines, right? So at max, you can only have like 18% movement speed boost for 10 seconds and 45% pallet destroying speed. So like it's a bit confusing to me as well what they really mean by this. But like this is just kind of the persona for now. I'm really sorry, it's a bit vague, but like everything's on your screen currently. When we popped open the 4 cipher machine, it kind of triple stacked it, and oh no, it didn't triple stack. So it's actually only the first 3 cipher machine. But like the effect can stack and is permanently lost when a survivor is placed on rocket chair. I think that simply just means that if we kind of just remake the game here and we redo it, that means that if we, let's say, just chair priestess immediately and then decode and then like pop open the 3 cipher machines, that actually won't come into effect. So Vigilance is pretty, let's say, in a way, it's to allow hunters to get a survivor down once the 3 cipher machine has been popped open, so it gives them more of an edge. But if I just teleport towards Priestess right now and then like down her here instantly as she gets moisture. We'll talk about Knight's buff later on, but we're gonna get Priestess down. We're gonna pick Priestess up, and now we are going to chair Priestess. Let's see if Vigilance stacks or not as we pop open the first 3 Cypher machines. So I'm gonna do that. 1, 2, 3. As you can see, it did stack, but once Priestess is on chair, it just permanently disappeared. So more or less, Vigilance is pretty situational in a sense. Okay, now let's look at Giant Claw. So Giant Claw overall got a buff. There is one thing that they've removed from it, but more or less it is a buff. So Survivors tied to Balloon have their struggling speed reduced by 5, 10, 15% is still the same. But now what they've done is they added the fact that it will be a decoding speed debuff of up to 20% for 10 seconds if the Survivor struggles free from the balloon. As we can see here, the Doctor just struggled free from the balloon. We can see this Giant Claw effect, 20% decoding speed debuff. You can see here as well will be applied for the next 10 seconds. But one of the big factors I really want to talk about this right now is they've actually removed the struggling effect of 25, 50, and 75% away from Giant Claw. I personally kind of liked it, right? Especially at big bow areas, especially at the big bow when they can actually struggle down pretty easily. But I guess more or less, it is still pretty preventable in a sense as well. But that's this for Giant Claw. Okay, next will be Impact. So Impact got a really big buff. Previously, Impact's healing debuff was 15, 20/25%. Now they've increased it to 20, 30, and 40%. So as you can see here from my side of Impact, the self-healing time and healing other survivors has been reduced by 40%. And if we heal TME, well, I guess if we heal TME right here, there doesn't seem like there is any difference. But I feel like if I just enable AI controls here and for TME to heal me, it doesn't really seem like it's a 40% debuff, I'll be honest with you. So I can only assume that this is actually self-healing time. So I'm going to turn off the AI controls there. I'm just going to start running. And I am going to teleport towards Geisha. Once again, right, not my issue, really. This is something that you do have to blame for kind of just miscommunication from a side, and that is in general. But self-healing speed is reduced by 40%, it seems. I guess that's 40%. It does seem pretty fast, but it's the same speed as TME actually healed us, so I might have made a mistake here. But as you can see, it is pretty slow compared to usual, and it does stack into effect as well, as you can see here. So increased self-healing time and healing time for other survivors after being hit by 40%. It does seem pretty fast. I did not bring Flywheel, by the way, and it does seem still pretty fast. So yeah, maybe I'm not understanding anything, but that's Impact. Okay, now then the next one will be Hunt. So for Hunt got a buff as well. After pursuing survivors for 11:9/7 seconds, it was previously 12, 10, and 8, right? Now you gain a 10% increased movement speed and obstacle vaulting speed. As we can see here, we already have Hunt on us after such a short period of time. But what I am pretty interested in here is it says that this bonus will be lost if Pursue fails interacting, attacking, and using ability or being control, but it does say that our vaulting speed actually has been increased here as well. So I guess my question would be, does it maintain if we vault? So vaulting speed is faster, but it just get removed. So as you can see there, Hunt actually got removed right afterwards as well. So we can just show it to you guys here once again. I'm chasing after the gardener. Hello. I'm chasing after the gardener. I have Hunt. I vault over the window by 10% faster, but I do lose Hunt ability right afterwards as well. So regardless of what happens, the moment you interact, you are pretty cooked in that sense as well, lol. But that's that for Hunt. Now then, the next adjustment here will actually be Tolerance. Tolerance got a buff as well. So what part of Tolerance did we actually get buffed? So from the slide of Tolerance right now, previously the knockback effect was reduced by 8, 16/24%. Now they've actually increased it to 12, 22, and 32%. So from my forward here, I'm going to stand at the very depth end corner here, and I'm just going to pull one straight long ball. I'll tell you how much this consumes because I'm playing on my phone right now. We pull a ball. This consumes around half a ball, and just by consuming half a ball, there's only this much distance created. So half a ball with just this much distance on tolerance is pretty darn good. I won't lie to you, but yeah. Okay, for our last two personas, these actually going hand in hand, and we're gonna use Undead for this one as well as he towers over me. So it's gonna be Sweet Sweeper and After Effects, but we're gonna look at After Effects first. So from the side of After Effects, right now, it's still the same except for the fact that they've added his self-healing speed increased by 8, 12, and 16%, meaning it takes longer for you to actually self-heal when you're down on the ground as well. Now, as we can see as a little girl, my self-healing speed is generally speaking pretty slow, especially at 16% here as well. But that's not only that too, as I reduce my own fear, we get up here. What is also the next thing? The next thing is Street Sweeper. Everyone knows as Street Sweeper, it wasn't really a good persona, but they've recently added that if you are nearby, if you're within 24, 28, and 32 meters, their healing speed will also be increased by 25, 40, and 55%. This is exceptionally good for Undead, but as you can see here as well, right? Let's just say for an example, I'm gonna heal this Cordy up to maybe like 90% heal speed, 90%, so it's 90 or 95%, right? And I'm just gonna get the Undead to hit me, and then I try basically heal this Cordy with maxed Street Sweeper. Right, this is really good for Undead. So I'd say, you know what, this is probably around, this is probably, we're gonna do 95, so hold on. So this is probably around 95, so I'm just gonna get Undead to hit me. Oh, I got hit. I'm gonna strike heal Cordy. Cordy got up, we got up. Undead's attack recovery just ended, he can dash. Cooked. I do think this is really good for Undead. I genuinely speaking do think that this is really good for Undead. But that's gonna be the end of all our Hunter personas that has just been released, buffed, and changed, removed, etc, etc, etc. Hopefully all of you actually do enjoy this as well. But this is gonna be it from me for today. We're gonna be able to see you later, either during the tourney or maybe for the adjustments, patch adjustments for the next 5 characters for season 38. But of course, I'll hopefully see you guys in a skin tier list or maybe in Hunter/Survivor tier list. But for now, that's it from me for today. Hopefully you all enjoyed. Bye bye, have a good day, good night, ladies and gents.